Italian Wine Podcast. Chin Chin with Italian wine people.
Welcome to another On the Road edition hosted by Stevie Kim. Join us as we kick off a new 7-part series with our fantastic partner E&J Gallo Winery. This new series of interviews will be live on Clubhouse and replayed on the Italian Wine Podcast through to April 16th. We are proud to present this series of interviews, diving deep into the heritage and legacy of their portfolio of excellent Italian producers in the run-up to the launch of the new brand identity for their importer, which will be shared on March 16th in an episode with Marilisa Allegrini. Tune in to the Italian Wine Podcast every Saturday as we take an intimate look at these highly esteemed historic producers and their role as part of the Gallo family of luxury wines. So let's get to the show. In this first episode, Stevie is in Montalcino with Bernardino Sani of Argiano Winery. Join her on her visit to the winery to talk about the incredible estate and taste the wines.
Hello, my name's Stevie Kim, and this is the Italian Wine Podcast on the road series, which means that it will be also a video feature in the Mama Jumbo Shrimp. So this is a special series we've created with Gallo and their luxury brand portfolio. We're here with Bernardino Sani. So Bernardino is, of course, the big cheese. He's the boss of Argiano Winery. And right now we are going to do some wine tasting from your winery. Right. Okay, so how many wines, first of all, how many labels do you have?
So, as you can see here, the production of Argiano wines is divided into the historical traditional wines, the Sangiovese-based wine, Rosso Di Montalcino, Brunello De Montagno Classico, Riserva di Brunello Di Montalcino, and Brunello Vigna del Suolo. Plus, we do have 2 super Tuscan wines, the Non Confunditur, the NC, and the Solegno. So, in total, we make 6 wines, all red wines, all produced and grapes sourced here in Argiano estate, organic certified, and I have here a map for you. Okay. Just to show we are
Don't
here.
Don't test me later.
And all the vineyards are surrounding us. The red is the Sangiovese, so the main production.
Okay, so it's all red.
The main production is Sangiovese, yes. Of course, being in Montalcino.
So, give us a little bit of a backgrounder. When did Argiano Winery start? From the very, very beginning. Just give us a very brief timeline.
The history is huge. Argiano estate, like it is now, like as it's now, dates back to the 1580th century, and since there they were producer of grapes and wine. From the late 19th century, Argiano joined Biondisanti among a few other wineries of Montalcino in the production of the Brunello Di Montalcino, when he created actually the Brunello Di Montalcino. In the 1967, Argiano was one of the founders, 25 founders of Consortium del Brunello, and has been an important producer of Brunello Di Montalcino. As many other wineries historically, with a lot of history, it went through different owners, different styles, different epochs, gold times, less gold times. Recently has been both by the Esteves family, and since 2013, it launched a lot of projects, all based on the conception of being Argiano one of the most beautiful, important historical sites of Montalcino. We also want to do some of the most terroir-driven, classic, nice expression of Montalcino wines.
So for the wine geeks out there, give us a little bit about the various microclimates in terms of altitude, exposition, and the type of soil.
So we are in the southwest side of the hill of Montalcino, around 300 meters above the sea level, facing directly the Mediterranean Sea. We do have 2 kinds of soils, a lower side of the estate where we have soils that are very rich in clays. Then we have a northern area that is also a little bit higher. It goes from 300 to 325 meters above the sea level, and is this one. This one is where we have the best Sangiovese for Brunello Di Montalcino. Why? Because the soil here is a mixture of clays and limestones. The clays are important because they give the power to the wine, but the limestones is what gives the vertical taste, the soury feeling in the mouth, the longevity in the wine. Why there's a lot of limestones here? Because 20 million years ago, the ocean was covering all these lands. When it retired, it left a lot of shells, and now 2 meters behind us, there's still a lot of those shells, fossily, that gives a lot of limestones to the soil. If you want to go very
Kiki.
we did a micromap project with Pedro Parra in 2015. We micromapped
Pedro
all the
Parra
vineyards.
is a Spaniard.
Is a Chilean terroir expert. Is a geologist.
He's from Chile.
He's from Chile. He's obsessed with soils. He digs 2 meters digs, he analyzed the soil's composition, he analyzed the electroconductivity of the soils, he differentiates all the different soils, and based on that, the clones that you have there, the exposition of the vineyards, all together, it makes a micromap, a map that tells you about what are the very best of the best specific lands and vineyards that you have in your estate. This is the same map I showed you before with the different kind of soils. If we take this and we make it bigger, we go here, and here in this part we have the 6 best micro terroirs, micro parcels of vineyards of Sangiovese, where we do Brunello di Montalcino. With this one, we do the Vigna del Suolo that you will taste later. That is a single vineyard. The other goes in the final blend of Brunello.
Okay, so we're going to be tasting 6 wines. Where do we start?
We start from the Rosso Di Montalcino 2019.
Okay.
Let me see if it's okay.
It's bad?
I hope so. My fault. And so Rosso 19 comes from vineyards of Sangiovese between 15 and 25 years old. We tend to use the vineyard that we have in front, right here in front of the estate, that is the Oliviera vineyard, as it gives usually the most fresh, fruity expression of Sangiovese. In the Rosso di Montalcino, what is the idea? We like to make a Rosso that is a very traditional, classic Sangiovese, so not a little Brunello. A completely different wine, fresh, fruity, gastronomic, with its own characteristic, not meant to be super complex, but very nice, fresh red fruit, cherry almost nose from the Sangiovese, and a nice acidity, nice freshness, nice saltness in the mouth that makes it very gastronomic, especially with our local food. So antipasti, pasta, cheeses, all that, it goes very well. It's what we used to drink in the past in regular basis, and now people drink less, but we still want people to enjoy more than a glass, just a glass of wine. And so this
is the 19, the vintage. When was this released?
In last year, in 21st, it was released after 9 months of aging in a big oak barrel, 5,000 liters oak barrels, and a little some months in the bottle. It's 19 that was a fantastic vintage. So watch out for when the Brunello will reach the market, because 19 had pretty much the same characteristic as the 16. Cool,
which was a very
cool
important
winter, yes, and long summertime with cool nights, warm days, some rains here and there to refresh the vines. So you have complexity, you have color, you have richness, a good quantity in production, and at the same time it maintains the freshness of the Sangiovese.
So can I ask you from a consumer perspective, how much is this wine? How much is this wine in America, for example?
So it's usually what's happened is that this is extremely popular in Europe, very gastronomic wine. People here loves it. It goes very well in restaurants here. So is comparing to the Brunello, the export percentage is less on the Rosso di Montalcino. Anyway,
because the Europeans are smarter. This is such, it's the Rosso di Montalcino. I think it's great value, especially you know.
I agree. I'm for example, my taste. I love Langhe Nebbiolo. I love San Valpolicella. I love Rosso Di Montalcino. I like some Etna wines. So I like wines that have freshness, acidity, very gastronomic. Some people tends to prefer a little bit more full body wines.
Yeah,
it
muscular.
can be, it can be a little bit dry for someone, the Rosso di Montalcino.
So do you sell this? I mean, is this available in America?
Yeah, absolutely.
And how much is a bottle in retail?
And last time I was in New York in a pizzeria in Brooklyn, you know, they are expensive. It was around $55.
But that was in
retail would be 30.
Yeah, 30. I mean,
25 to 30.
This is such a, great value.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. It is. It's considering it's made with the grapes that could be used for Brunello. It's made with vineyards that are treated in exactly the same way, aged in the same barrels of Brunello, just a shorter time, and just differently to maintain more freshness, less and maybe less extraction.
Yeah, I mean, a wine like this, $25, $30 retail, great value. Yeah. Especially when you're compared to French wines.
Definitely, yes.
Okay.
I think this is a good point. Is one great thing is you still find in Italy is that the so-called second wine quality is extremely good overall.
But it's a paradox, right? I mean, in Brunello, Montalcino, you produce more Brunello than Rosso Di Montalcino.
Yeah, the number.
I don't understand that really.
They never wanted to expand the vineyards in Montalcino, so they started with a very limited close register of vines for Brunello and Rosso, and despite the success that those wines had, they never wanted to grow with volumes, and so it's still limited. The number is 2,000 hectares of Brunello De Montagno vineyards only, and so the biggest part of the grape is used for the Brunello still.
Okay, all right. So let's go to the next wine. And what are we drinking?
Brunello De Montagno 16.
And this was released when?
This was released in 2020. So this is
last year.
Yeah, this was released 2 years ago after when the COVID started. Actually.
Yeah, so it's a great year, great vintage.
It's a great
right?
vintage, and 16. Why it's a great vintage? It's a perfect weather for Sangiovese, because the winter days were cold, even chilly in January. Then in the springtime, some rains in May, followed by a summertime that was a pretty long one, but never too hot, and extremely different temperature between nighttime and daytime. These allowed to harvest in the end of October here, selecting the best parcels, the best vineyards of Sangiovese, fermenting them separately in cement tanks, aging them in oak barrels between 1,000 liters and 5,000 liters, and bottled for 1.5 years.
Has the winemaking, because this was on the cusp with the new owners, right?
Right.
Has the winemaking style changed? Has it?
It changed pretty much, as Argiano in the last 20 years had a history of winemakers, starting with Giacomo Takis, then was Hans Winding. They all tend to make pretty high in concentration wines and to age the Sangiovese in barrique. So the wines were rich, pretty powerful. While with Esteves coming, we decided to switch to very classic style. So when I say very classic style, meaning not too much concentration, trying to be very respectful of the fruit, of the terroir, and an aging in barrel that is a little bit more gentle. So not too much tannins from the oak, pretty neutral oak aging, and wines that are probably also a little bit more long aging. We took as examples the Argiano wines from the 70s, that if you drink them now, they are still very fresh, very alive. So the acidity is higher, and the way we conduct the vineyards It's with a little bit less density and even sometimes some higher yields. Just not to force too much the grapes, to maintain balance, the finesse.
Okay, what are we tasting next?
The Riserva di Brunello, so 2016 Riserva di Brunello, and this is just been released.
So you released it just now because it's longer aging, right?
Longer aging, 1 year more in the bottle, not in the wood. The wood aging is pretty much the same. It's coming from specific parcels of Sangiovese, that is a vigna that has a pretty high in concentration clone of Sangiovese. And
but are they not coming from the same parcel?
This one specifically is almost one parcel. This one.
Okay.
Because it has the higher concentration, so we think it's good to use that for the more long aging wine that we do. That is the Riserva di Brunello, and the fermentation is pretty much the same as in the Brunello. The aging process is in smaller casks, slightly smaller casks. We go from 500 liters tonneau to 1000 liters cask.
Let's talk a little bit about the tasting notes. Just not crazy, geeky, but between these two, right? They're very similar, but one was basically it has longer aging requirement, right?
Right.
So in terms of the tasting note, like what are the main differences?
So in the Brunello de Montalcino, I feel it very classic nose, a little fruit, cherry nose from the Sangiovese, and then some spices, not too much leather, not too much oak behind, very fresh mouth. The Riserva di Brunello, comparing to the Brunello, does have already some more spicy leather notes, a little bit more complexity in the nose, some more oak in the background, and the mouth is a little bit more rich, more large. The Rosso Di Montalcino is very fruity, very extremely fruity, nice, vibrant, fresh.
And what about food pairing? How would you pair these three wines?
So the good point to me in this kind of wine of Argiano is that they are not the kind of Brunello or Barolo or Amaro that are very rich, very high in concentration, and where you need meat for sure, or big aged cheese or something like that. Here you can play a lot. Rosso di Montalcino, especially when it's a little bit chilled, you can eat it, we drink it even with some kind of fish, like the cod fish or bacala livornese or the Veneto cod fish, and
but bacala with tomato sauce?
Garlic sauce, and chicken goes perfectly, and roasted pork goes perfectly. Pasta dishes is very good.
Listen, you were telling me that you worked also in America,
yeah,
right? So what kind of American, like international food rather, would, other than the Italian classic food pairing, because not everyone eats Italian food every day.
No, that's
right?
what I was.
So what kind of food? I don't know, tacos.
For sure, we did a tasting in New York 2 years ago, and I don't know if I can make names, but we paired Brunello with Shake Shack burgers.
Burgers.
So, when a wine is elegant, have acidity, have salty mouth, it goes very well with pretty much every kind of food. I would avoid Japanese food, especially sushi. But for the rest, I can go from pizza. The Rosso with pizza is amazing.
Maybe the Rosso, you can go with some sushi.
Maybe the Rosso, yes.
Not the Brunello.
The Brunello and the Riserva, no. Mexican food goes super good with
What
this.
about like Asian cuisine?
Asian cuisine very well, except for the very spicy or sweet one. When it's sometime in China, for example, you have, depending on the region, because China, it's like Italy. You go region by region, the food changes completely. Hot pot can cover this.
It can kill each other.
What I love with the Rosso is the fried chicken, for example. And
everything is good with fried chicken. I'm
exactly.
sorry.
Yeah, they're right, especially Korean fried chicken. But another thing that I love is rice in general, especially South American rice. So my wife is from Dominican Republic. They make rice with beans and pork, and that with the Brunello goes especially well. And tacos, absolutely good. And of course, with the Reserva, you can already go for the classic also steakhouse and steak and cheese sandwiches, all that. But even the Reserva can be drunk with different kind of food.
Okay, fantastic.
And that's a wrap for today. Tune in once again next week for part 2 of 2, in which Stevie continues her interview with Bernardino Sani of Argiano Winery. We hope you enjoyed this episode of our new Gallo Luxury Wine Portfolio series from the core of the Gallo Italian wine family. To learn more about today's featured producer, see our show notes and visit their website. Don't forget to subscribe and like our show and tune in to the Italian Wine Podcast wherever you get your pods.